So I just wanted to share some benchmarks with the new Nvidia 545 driver branch and some issues I discovered with it under Wayland. As you can see here, my system specs are currently, I have a AMD Ryzen 7 7800 X3D and an Nvidia GeForce RTX 2080 and 64 gigs of RAM. So let's go into the first benchmark, actually the only one I have. I've chosen Xonotic for it, which is native and uses OpenGL as renderer. The reason I do that is because it's pretty high FPS, so I usually tend to test this when I test out a new kernel or even with a new Nvidia driver or something, but it has a lot of CPU boundary in there, so when I try kernel schedulers or something, I think it could be a good indicator to see if there's something entirely wrong. But as you can see already for X11, the values I got are pretty consistent no matter what I do. So those were older Nvidia drivers, mostly the 535 Vulkan developer beta version and some different kernels and schedulers. Those two were taken with the Nvidia 545 driver and kernel 6.6, release candidate 5 and release candidate 7. But as you can see, the variation there is pretty much neglectable. The max FPS are always between 810 and 820, and the min are mostly between 150 and 160, with one outlier, let's say. So since Wayland is currently a hot topic, I thought maybe I should try it out myself, even though I've heard that Nvidia has some issues with it. And the first time I tried it with Wayland, I had this result here. And I thought, okay, this FPS looks an awful lot like the frame rate of my monitor. So maybe there's VSync on, because usually, as far as I know, Wayland forces VSync, and they try to somehow remove that, especially for gaming, or make it possible that for some apps this is ignored. And usually I have this option on when I test, and I cross-checked and I had this option on. So theoretically VSync should not have been on. After some Google search I saw the option unfortunately does not work on Plasma with Nvidia cards, because Nvidia drivers apparently. And it was even in the Nvidia forum, and they said, oh, this will be solved in 545. So I was eagerly awaiting 545 just to test out if it was fixed. And well, once it got out, I first tried the beta version 545.31 something. And now I guess it's the new feature branch with 545.29.02 or something. And as you can see, actually the issue got resolved with the new drivers. And If I look at the minimum FPS, they already look quite okay. At least they are not worse than what I had with X11. The maximum FPS on Plasma looked a little bit lower, and also the averages were a little bit lower, even though the minimums are at least above this, but since it's always only a very few runs, it might also be statistical variance, but since both had a minimum FPS of 169, maybe not so. But anyway, at least it looks not much worse anymore than on X11, even though the average could be a bit higher. And to test it out, I wanted to try with some different compositor and test it on Hyperland. On Hyperland, actually, the FPS were higher the both times I measured. So, and as you can see, always with the basically same runs, with the same Nvidia driver version and with the same compositor, the results are pretty close to one another. So I guess this is not a complete statistical variation. So the first one, this one, and this one were taken with the better version, and this were some days later when the new feature branch was released with a new feature branch. So it was different days, and still I had pretty much similar results. What's quite interesting is the minimum seems to be a little bit more unstable on Hyperland. I think Hyperland mostly uses WL routes directly. The maximum went through the roof. Don't know if this is a good thing, because usually I like to have frame rates more consistent than having high max frame rates, or even higher minimum frame rates are, in my opinion, more appreciated than higher average frame rates. But anyway, so basically we can see that the Nvidia 545 branch solved this issue, but I encountered another issue which I will come to next. So what you're seeing here now is I launched the Unigine superposition benchmark through Wine. So I use DXVK and the DirectX version of it. I usually tend to do this because I want to see how things behave the entire pipeline running games on Linux, not just native versions. And actually the benchmark results are quite fine. They are pretty close to the Windows ones, but what you see here is this hitches and stutters. So I repeat it here again. Don't need to show the entire benchmark, but yeah, you see the whole picture has some kind of issues, and this is not the case with the 535 driver, but it is the case with 545, and this does not matter if I run this on Hyperland. To my opinion, it seems like on Hyperland it's a little bit less, but it's still there. And of course, you can't play like this if you have issues like this inside your game. So yeah, seems like this is a new bug and it needs to be addressed, but I found out now that the issue is known. There was some forum entry on the Nvidia side, and some Nvidia employees already stated they could reproduce the issue, so hopefully that will get fixed soon. So that's my first video created with Kdenlive, and I hope you could learn something, and maybe I'll publish videos in the future as well. See you.